At the top of the show, I discussed the new evangelicals, and I want to describe them for you so that you know exactly who they are. And so on their website, it says this: the new evangelicals are an inclusive, Jesus-centered community that holds space for those marginalized by the evangelical church through building community, exploring faith, and systemic change. Now, a lot of that mumbo jumbo might not mean anything to you, so let me interpret since I run in these circles. When they say inclusive, they mean universalist. They mean that Jesus isn't the only way to heaven, that we're going to be inclusive of all ideas, even the really dumb ones. Now, when they say hold space, I have to be honest with you. I have no idea what in the world that means. Hold space? Like, what space are you holding? And did you know that you can't hold space? Anyway, but let's move on, because we hear that they are there to protect the marginalized in the evangelical church. And I mean, at first glance, that sounds really, really great. But actually what it means that we want to hold space, and we want to be an inclusive community that holds space for the marginalized by the evangelical church. What they actually mean is that we would rather lie to you and be your friend than tell you the truth and be your enemy. That's really what they're talking about at the end of the day. And then they say, we want to build community. So what they actually mean there is that we want to use buzzwords that make us seem like we're hip, like marginalized and systemic. Oh, and we're building community. As long as you're not one of those real evangelicals or Trump voters, because then you can get the hell out of here, because we want nothing to do with you. But if you hate everything that Christianity stands for, you're maybe in the LGBTQIA plus ad infinitum unicorn four-leaf clover rabbit foot group, or you're a Marxist or Sam Smith, well, our doors are wide open for community for you guys, because we are clout chasers rather than truth chasers. And then finally, they say they explore the faith. What are you guys? Dora? What faith are you exploring? What this means actually is we hold to zero evangelical interpretations of Scripture, and we give zero craps about the historic Jesus or actually the Bible. Because you don't need to explore the faith, you just need to declare it. And then finally they say we're for systemic change. We're just going to bash Christians like a teenager throwing a fit when his dad grounds him, is essentially what they mean by systemic change. Is we're not going to look to the wisdom of the past. We are going to reinvent wisdom today to make ourselves sound super hip. And we're going to rebel against the wisdom of the past, as you can see in this clip here.
If you're a conservative Christian, can I be honest with you for a minute? I'm a little concerned with the obsession so many of you have with trans people and drag queens. And if I'm being really honest, it feels like you're trying to distract us from addressing real problems in the country, like how we still don't have affordable healthcare for people, or how wages have been stagnant for decades, or how we have a mound of garbage twice the size of Texas currently in our oceans, or how housing is becoming more and more unaffordable for millions of people. And let's not get us started on the rampant pride, greed, and pastoral abuse happening inside your own spaces. But you want me to ignore all that and to be more worried about the one trans athlete in Kentucky or drag queen story hour, which no one is forcing you to go to? Why? Well, I think it's because one costs you nothing and the others will cost you everything, and you'd rather force someone to bear your cross for you than to bear it yourself.
So since you asked the question, Tim, I will do my best to answer it. Why do evangelical Christians, the real ones that is, actually care about Drag Queen Story Hour? Why do we care about transgenderism? And why are we so outspoken on the issue? Well, it isn't because we want somebody else to carry our cross, but actually because we care about a couple of things. First of all, we care about the trans/drag agenda because it is dedicated to grooming children. Just recently in Florida, they banned indecent exposure to children and doing sexually explicit things in public around children. And the Pride Parade that was planned for Florida, which, by the way, you can't go through a single month of the year without a Pride Parade apparently now, even outside of June. So at the moment Florida banned that kind of sexually explicit material for children, they canceled their show. I mean, these guys can't even see themselves anymore. They are so echo chambered in their LGBTQIA left-wing sexual ideology that they can't understand that when you cancel a show because you can't sexually groom children, that what you're actually admitting to is that you're interested in sexually grooming children. But this is exactly what we already know. We've seen these performances of basically young children, 10 and 11 years old, doing strip shows without the stripping, but nonetheless doing stripper moves in front of children like you can see on the screen right now. So the reason we resist this stuff, Tim, is because children matter, and this agenda is dedicated to grooming them. And Jesus kind of thought it was important too, because he's like, hey, if you harm one of these little ones, then it's better for you to throw yourself in the river and drown yourself. So we actually kind of think that Jesus meant what he said, unlike some people we know. But the second thing is this: the trans agenda hurts other people. The puberty blockers that are just supposed to put a pause on your puberty actually, if taken early enough, can cause blindness in children and have already been proven, regardless of what the trans activists say, to cause infertility. The moment these children who cannot consent to taking puberty blockers take them, they are putting their future ability to have kids in the hands of Big Pharma. So we care about this because we care about the hurt. We care about the damage that it does to other people. Right now on the screen, you can see a TikTok of a young woman dressed as a man who has 2 scars on her breast where she had a double mastectomy. And then you can see another person who I believe is a woman that's obviously been taking testosterone with this other individual. And what you see is them swapping their hormones. So the woman is giving estrogen to the man, and the man is giving testosterone to the woman. And so they're injecting each other on screen and giddily laughing. Now, if that's not horrific enough for you, just remember something that I think we all know at this point in time. The media wants to tell you about all the people who will commit suicide, like this story on the screen, if they do not have quote-unquote gender-affirming care. But what you will never hear from the mainstream media, and what you should know, comes from an alternative source here from a foreign country, because you don't hear it in the mainstream in America, is stories like this. A 26-year-old trans man named Ez Eden died on Saturday as a result of complications arising from sex reassignment surgery. So the casualties of the trans movement are why we actually care, Tim. And then finally, the reason we care is because the trans movement, the drag queen movement in America today, it's anti-truth. A simple question destroys the house of cards that has been built for us in America today.
What is a woman?
And that question needs to be asked more and more and more, because a society that lives by lies has been humiliated and demoralized. And when they are, they're way easier to control. That's why I think we need to have a conversation about this stuff, because the new evangelicals are not new in any shape, form, or fashion. They're just old liberal theology. And they're certainly not evangelical. Can somebody just get us like old Coke back? It was way better than new Coke. The reason we need to return to it is because as liberalism rises, immorality grows, and we need morality to hold a society together. This is why Christianity is innately conservative and not liberal. So I understand liberalism has some thoughts that are important to discuss, but ultimately Christianity believes in an authoritative past found in Scripture. So maybe it's okay if we don't rebel against our parents like a bunch of spoiled teenage brats. Maybe it's okay if we don't want to reinvent human sexuality in every generation because somehow we've obtained some greater enlightenment than the past. Maybe preserving wisdom of the past should be a little bit more edgy and cutting edge, maybe, sure. But even if it's not sexy, it's true. And that's what should matter. When we don't value the wisdom of the past, we get nothing more than this pseudo-intellectual garbage being peddled as thoughtfulness, like you see from the new evangelicals. We get garbage in the ocean is in some way equivalent to the mutilation of kids. If it's true you can judge a society by the way it treats its most vulnerable citizens, then protect kids. Damn the garbage, and damn you if you call yourself a Christian and you can't find the moral courage to see the difference between the two. But hopefully you can, and if you can, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching, and if you don't want to be demoralized, go with God. So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.